Hi, and welcome to my second episode of Update from the Edge. Today I'm at the Columbus Community Garden, which is just a few blocks from my house, and where I now have a community garden plot as well. What, you say? Community garden addiction? 2 plots? Yes. Well, it's not looking like I'm going to have a lot of work this summer. So, yep. Community gardening is the answer. I want to thank my sons, Joe and Theo, for turning my garden for me and mixing in the compost. I really appreciate that. It's a super rainy Sunday and I'm in the house. This week, as I was walking around my neighborhood, I came upon this sign. Wow. Totally took me back to the stories my grandma would tell about when she was in quarantine.
I just felt tired out and my back of my neck hurt. It's hard to hold my head up. And we lived fourplex out on Portland Avenue.
That's my grandma's voice talking about where she lived at the time. 35th and Portland, like 4 blocks from where I live. So this week, in honor of quarantine, I decided to walk on over and find the building she was in. And here it is, the fourplex my grandparents lived in 1937. They were on the 2nd floor. Here's my grandmother talking about that experience in an interview I did with her in the 1990s.
I got up the next morning and I just felt terrible. And I don't know, when you were coming out, I think.
I came out, yes.
And
she seemed to get worse as the day went by. And I went home, and then I wasn't allowed to ever go back until they were out of quarantine.
And my grandpa had to take a second job driving taxi so that they could have a nurse who would stay there and take care of my grandmother. And she also took care of my mother. But my mother couldn't go in the room where her mother was.
nobody could come in, although Tenny could go to work, but he could not come in the bedroom. They moved her crib out of the bedroom and into the dining room or somewhere, and the nurse moved a cot into my bedroom and slept in there with me to take care of me all night long. And that went on for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. The nurse would come in the bedroom. She'd just put a mask on and a gown, and then she'd hang it on the door when she'd go out. And so when Tenny could start coming in, he did the same thing. And then after they'd go out, they'd go in the bathroom and they had some kind of a liquid. They'd snuff up their nose. Oh. So apparently that's where the virus goes into your body, in your nose. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Of course, at that time, it didn't seem to me anybody really knew too much about it. And I had to be quarantined until so many days without out having a temperature. After my temperature was normal for so many days, why then we wouldn't be quarantined anymore. So she came in one day and put the thermometer in my mouth, and she said, "This better be normal now." Had been for quite a while. Well, I had the radio next to my bed because I listened to soap operas all the time on the radio. And I took it out of my mouth and I laid it on top of the radio. She came in and it was sky high heat from the radio. Well, right away she realized what had happened, but she got pretty excited for a while.
It's a new day and the sun is shining. Eventually my grandmother would come out of quarantine and learn to walk again with some assistance and go on to have a really good long life. Resilience. That's my word for today. Hang in there. We're going to get through this. See you next week on Update from the Edge.